I'm tired. I'm so tired. Anyways, hi everyone. I'm Mix B. I'm here to talk to you about the fact that there are no bad kids, about how teacher bias shapes student behavior. When a student acts out as a teacher, as an adult, as an administrator, do we see a bad kid, or do we see bad behavior, or do we see a child communicating an unmet need? Rosemary Allen's 2016 TED Talk called School Suspensions Are an Adult Behavior teaches us that children that are suspended are 10 times more likely to enter the juvenile justice system. They're more likely to drop out of school, have low achievement, and be suspended again and again and again. And this is the beginning of the preschool to prison pipeline. Suspensions are adult decisions. This is a quote by Walter Gillian. And he asks us, what if we shift our thinking, focusing on the behavior of the adults rather than focusing on the behaviors of the children? So instead of putting negative judgments on children's behavior, what if we simply have a conversation with the child about why they did the behavior that they did, and then have a conversation about behavior expectations and healing going forward? Um, there's tremendous power in praising good behavior rather than scolding unwanted behavior. And knowing our own personal triggers, our own personal biases, and our own struggles to deal with our emotions as adults. Because at the end of the day, we are the adults in the room and we get to hold ourselves to the expectations of adults. And children are children and they should be held to the expectations of children. So, um, furthermore, I wanted to highlight another TED Talk by Alice Goffman called How We Are Priming Some Kids for College and Others for Prison. So, in this one, Goffman rightfully argues that on the path to adulthood, two institutions oversee our nation's children. One of them is college, and the other is prison. We are asking our children, especially those in low income and under-supported neighborhoods, we're asking the youth of our nation to walk the thinnest line possible with the highest expectations and the highest consequences. Her message to the young people is, regardless of what institutions you end up going through, you can be a leader in making the change you need in this world. I want to highlight Brian Stevenson's TED Talk, We Need to Talk About Injustice. Stevenson is a lawyer, and he teaches us that although our society loves innovation and entertainment, that is often shadowed by abuse and marginalization. And we need to integrate this knowledge into our lives and everything that we do. Fighting the fight to be the change that is needed in this world is going to make you tired, but that's why you've got to be brave. And I just feel like this as a teacher is such an important thing to remember, that when we are tired, we need to take time to heal. And if we don't do that, we are going to lose our humanity. So he talks about how we need to find ways to embrace these challenges and the suffering that happens, because our humanity depends on each other's humanity. Each of us is more than what we have done. Stevenson also talks about a motion that he wrote in defending a 14-year-old Black boy, and he wrote the motion called to the motion to turn my poor Black 14-year-old client into a rich white 75-year-old executive man. And he basically talks about the importance of treating everyone with equality and equity. He talks about the unfair differences in the ways that this boy is being treated. Why labels harm our students? When adults assume a child or their behavior is bad, expectations drop. The student may receive more punishment, less patience, fewer chances to repair mistakes, and more surveillance than support. Research on implicit bias shows that students of color and students with disabilities are disproportionately impacted by this issue. And Stevenson reminds us that each person is more than the worst thing that they have done. Expectations shape behavior. Students often rise or sink to the expectations of the adults around them. So if a teacher expects disrespect, they may respond defensively rather than with care and looking for unmet needs in their students. Rita Pearson's win-win conversations show that teachers' tone and teachers' choices can escalate a conflict or create connection. We have a choice to make. Are we going to go, oh, here we go again, and confront the student? Or are we going to say, are you okay? What happened? How can I help you? We need to come at our students with regulation and trust and safety and care. So, how do we bypass this deficit thinking? We need to replace thinking, what's wrong with this child? And replace that with, what happened to this child and what do they need? And how can I meet those needs? We can use the following strategies. The Wong and Wong classroom management book teaches us that procedures taught clearly can help students form routines, practice, and consistency. They don't even have to think about what they're doing, they'll just be in the habit of doing these good habits. We can use restorative practices. We can focus on communication, repairing harm, helping students take accountability, and repairing relationships. There's no point in punishing students. There's no point in making students repeatedly relearn the same lesson. What we can do is teach them how to fix any damages that they may have created. We can also check our biases. We can ask ourselves, would I react the same way if another student did this? We can also look for the strengths in our students. We can look for leadership, humor, energy, persistence, and we can redirect with positivity. So in closing, there are no bad kids. There are no bad behaviors. There are simply students with unmet needs, and it's our job as adults to help figure out what are those unmet needs and how can I support these kids. We have skills to teach them, we have skills to practice ourselves, and we have stories to listen to and tell. As educators, we can be gatekeepers of punishment or we can be builders of possibility. It's simply a choice, and we all either make one or the other. We need to see children, we need to learn who they are and help them. We need to believe in redemption and change and second chances and practice that every single day.